Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Diane's been working with buyers and sellers in the Missoula market for over 25 years. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction and brings us guests who provide useful information on industry-related topics and trends. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on Newstalk, KGVO. We appreciate you joining us. We have a picture-perfect Missoula Real Estate Today program this weekend, if you will. Corey Dostal. Corey is owner of Missoula Real Estate Photography. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
I know that we work together a number, not necessarily work together, but you have helped out our radio stations. We do an annual fundraiser, Christmas for Kids, and I know that you were a little bit involved with that a number of years ago, so...
Yeah, that's a lot of fun, and I plan on jumping back into that this year too.
Excellent. Well, let's get acquainted with you. Your background and why this profession called your name.
Yeah, so I've done photography for ever since high school, basically.
Okay.
I started my own business shortly after getting out of high school, and it was what every photographer pretty much kind of jumps into, which is people. Yeah. Photographing senior portraits, that kind of stuff. I love doing that. I love working with, one individual. But over time, I saw a family friend that actually was doing real estate, and his business took off. And I was like, I never thought about real estate. Never really thought about doing that. So I thought, let's try this. I had a friend that was in real estate, and she gave me a house to shoot, and I enjoyed it. And I just kind of kept going, and then it blew up from there the next year. And it's just been growing crazy over the last couple of years.
Wow, cool. And lo and behold, Missoula Real Estate Photography. What was it about, other things about real estate photography that really appealed to you? That's a heck of a lot different than shooting a high school senior, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of differences there. It took a big learning curve. I am more self-taught than anything. I always jump on the web and teach myself things and learn things that way. And there's a lot of vertical lines and horizontal lines that you have to pay attention to, levels and stuff like that. I enjoyed it. A lot of learning there. And it's just, I get to be creative and I'm by myself. And I kind of like that at times. Sometimes a realtor's there and we just sit there and chit chat as I kind of go through. So it's just a little conversation, get to know the realtor and sometimes get to know the homeowner.
What makes a really good real estate photographer or any kind of a photographer?
Just a photographer overall is being able to learn and adapt and move across and expand their business. Being able to open up. With the real estate, it's paying attention to levels and lines and things like that to make sure you're not warping or making a room look like a tunnel or little things like that. There's a lot of things that you have to pay attention to. And, some people just say you have the eye for it. And I guess I've always been told I have the eye for photography, and it's moved into a lot of different things over my career.
And of course, equipment comes into play as well, which we'll talk about a bit later in the show here. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on Newstalk KGVO. My guest, Corey Dostal. Corey is owner of Missoula Real Estate Photography. Corey, your relationship with Diane Beck or at Windermere Real Estate or any real estate agent really, where do your paths usually cross?
Yeah, so, I'm part of the MORE organization here in town, Missoula Organization of Realtors.
Right.
I joined them last year and joined again this year and plan to continue to join with them. And it's a lot of it, I guess social media is kind of where our paths meet more than anything. Okay. I get to know people. People see me on there. And then, just a little bit of advertising and pushing out through flyers and stuff like that I do. People find me and then they ask me to do a job for them. And from there, we just kind of make that partnership and work together going forward.
Talk a little bit about what statistics show. I mean, we're not on a sales campaign here or anything like that for what it is you do, but I think it's pretty interesting numbers, the statistics that show, how much more effective professional real estate photography can be in the selling of a property.
Yeah, professional photography plays a big part into it. The biggest part with professional photography that I tell a lot of my clients, friends, customers, whatever you want to call them, is it's your brand. So it's going to be something that you need to pay attention to going forward. When it comes to the stats, 83% of buyers consider photos to be very important. Sure. And those photos, professional photos, can get up to 20 seconds viewing per photo, whereas a poorly lit photo or poorly shot photo gets 2 seconds. So the more time on that photo, especially on social media with Instagram and other things, they rate your post based on how long someone looks at it. So if you're getting a longer view, you're getting that pushed out more to more people. So it helps with that. The average home, the homes being around 400 to 500,000, they sell about 21 days faster with professional photography and about $11,000 more than a house without professional photography.
That first one, 20 seconds as opposed to, say, about 2 seconds. That makes a lot of sense to me because technology has advanced so much and there's so much improvement in the quality of the products that you put out there. And I think that's just any more a prospective customer or a viewer's expectation, right? Is you expect a high resolution, high quality photo. And if you don't see it, if you're just seeing, something like you said, like it was in a rainstorm or it was cloudy or something, you're just going to shoot right by because you expect better.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things, when it comes to photography, like you said, kind of rainstorms and stuff like that. I can shoot in the rain, I can shoot in the snow, and I can make it look like it wasn't that way.
Wow.
It's just the technology that I have and the software that I have on my computer allows me to make those twists and turns. So that way you don't have to wait a week or anything like that. But, a lot of people expect to see a good photo. Mm-hmm. And if they don't see a good photo, they move on quicker. More homes are being bought, sight unseen. And professional photography just helps with that and helps push that even more.
Yeah, that's an amazing deal. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. And my guest, Corey Dostal, owner of Missoula Real Estate Photography. Corey, Missoula is such a competitive buyer's market right now. Don't see that changing anytime soon. And things can sell really fast. Has that changed the way you've had to approach getting the finished product out to your clients?
My business, it started off the year before COVID shut everything down.
Okay.
Yeah. I first started up, shot just a handful of homes that year. And then COVID from there, that following year, it really took off at the end of that year. I wasn't doing much at that point, and I just started having a lot of people contact me. I don't know where they were finding me, what they were doing, but I thought, let's push a little bit harder.
Wait, you didn't ask them how or where?
No, yeah. So, a lot of that, I have my website, I have my Instagram and stuff like that. So I just assumed it was from there.
Okay.
But I just kept pushing. I jumped online, started kind of getting in front of a lot more realtors. And that just kind of helped out there with that. I lost track of what you were saying.
Well, just the demand for your services, and we're in a I got to have it right now kind of society, especially with a huge transaction like this. So that's kind of where I was going on. Is just do you sense a greater not only demand for your product, but can you get it to me yesterday? Kind of.
Yeah. So in the realms of getting it back to my customers, my friends.
Yeah.
When I first started, I knew it was a quick turnaround. We needed things quick. Homes were selling quick. People wanted the house on the market last week.
Yeah.
So my thing's always been next day. So I get all my photography out next day, all video within the next 48 hours. Man. I ended up getting myself an editor. So I have my own editor out there now. And he takes care of all that stuff. So that way I can keep shooting and shoot more homes for the realtors and still producing, next day delivery on photography.
Is the same true with rental properties? Do you do as much of that? Is there a huge demand for that as well?
More of the rental properties that I do is more of like Airbnb and Verbo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll shoot a handful of those in the year. Most of the stuff that I shoot is real estate, though. I'm starting to push into commercial work and architecture and stuff like that. So that's a totally different ball game than real estate and rentals. But rentals are a lot of fun, especially the Verbos and Airbnbs because you shoot them a little bit different. So you got to get that mood. You got to get that style, like somebody actually living in there instead of just showing off like how big the room is and things like that. So because of that, it's kind of pulled into my real estate now. So I kind of get a little more of those moody shots at times into some of the properties that I photograph.
And I assume a few of those Airbnbs, at least, they take you to some pretty lovely scenic places, you know, along the shore and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that I get to see some pretty cool little spots. There's a realtor that I shoot here in town and I absolutely love it. Shooting stuff just out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I love going into those places.
Yeah, that's cool. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, and our guest is Corey Dostal. Corey owns Missoula Real Estate Photography. And when you take on a project, what's the routine in terms of looking everything over before you begin shooting? Do you have a pretty consistent, I don't know if system is the right word, but prioritizing what you're going to photograph? I assume the second you get there, you're already kind of doing you're doing your detective work and seeing this is good, this not so much, things like that. But do you have a system for that?
Yeah. So, depending on what the property is, a lot of the time I'll pull up the property immediately. Once that session is booked online, I get an alert on my phone that goes into my calendar. I'll pull up that address, see where it's at.
Yeah.
See what's around it, see if it's in a no-fly zone for drones and stuff like that. When I pull up to the property, I'm immediately paying attention to the windows on the front of the building because where am I going to park my truck? I try not to get it in the shots, and if I do, I try to get it out of the shots with editing. But it's paying attention to where you're coming up to that property. So that way when you're in the house shooting out, you're not always catching that same vehicle in front of every single house. When I pull up to the property, after looking over the outside, I walk through the home and kind of take a look, see where things are. And at that point, I'm kind of just, okay, I'm going to shoot from that angle, that spot. And then I'll go grab my gear and I start out front, shoot the front of the house typically, and then walk in and I pretty much shoot the flow of the home. So a lot of the time when you walk in, you got like your foyer, open little space there. And then you move into like the living room or kitchen. And then I'll move into maybe that same floor's restroom. And then I'll move into the bedrooms at that point, downstairs, upstairs, little things like that. So, and then end myself at the back of the yard and shoot the back of the house, the backyard, things like that. And then if there's drone, I shoot the drone at that point at the end of the session, grabbing front shots, backyard shots, farther away shots to kind of place that home in that neighborhood so people can see, oh, this is close to the mall or it's close to, downtown Missoula or wherever it's at.
Right. How many shots do you take overall, would you say, on average?
Yeah, so I shoot an HDR bracket system, which we'll say technical shot is 7 photos. So it takes that one shot, I click the shutter and it shoots 7 shots immediately.
Oh, okay.
So it takes one that's really dark and one that's really bright and everything in between. Those get merged together for an ultimate shot, exposing the dark spots and properly exposing the bright spots.
Wow. Allowing
you to see through the windows to outside so you're not blasting just a white window and you can't see outside.
Yeah.
So typically on average, because of the 7 photos per final photo, I'm uploading, before I get it to the realtor, I end up shooting 220 shots, 230 shots per home roughly, which equate down to around 30 photos per property.
Yeah. I was guessing that'd be about the ratio. I mean, I figured, for every 5 or 6 you shoot, one of those is the one that you want to use in the presentation. That makes sense. And of course, it helps you help your clients if they can get some things done prior to your session. Can you talk a little bit about what's included in your pre-photo checklist, room by room? That was actually something that's on your website as well. Entryway, kitchen, dining, living room, outside, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So, first off, when somebody orders a session from me and they do that online, immediately my system kicks out, hey, your appointment's been scheduled. And then inside that email is a link to my checklist so they can hand it to the buyer or the seller or whoever they want, they can use it themselves. And they can go through that checklist room by room, remove dog dishes, put the toilet seat down, which is the most common thing. Putting those type of things down, just kind of cleaning up the space. Some people don't want their family photos inside the real estate shots. So taking that type of stuff down, moving carpets, entryways, just decluttering things.
Yeah.
A lot of that's kind of on the list.
It's pretty basic stuff, isn't it? And I think you nailed it when you said decluttering, but it's really something that if you want to put your best foot forward, I don't mean you, but I mean your client, if they want to put their best foot forward in terms of a presentation of their home, and the home is still furnished, it's still being lived in, pretty common sense stuff, but probably a good reminder at the same time, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the process for the realtor to get to that point. If they want to stage, it helps just kind of tidy up a little bit more.
All right. Yeah, good word. You do recommend staging wherever possible. Do you work with a lot of clients who really have a knack for that, or is that where your professional expertise kind of comes in?
I think there's a couple realtors that either they have someone doing it or they're doing it themselves.
Yeah.
Where they're staging that home, just kind of throwing a little throw blanket over the back of the couch, making sure the pillows are kind of fluffed and mat or the bed sheets are laid out properly, things like that. Some people take it as far as kind of like setting up dining table to where it looks like, okay, we're going to have dinner here in a little while.
Sure, yeah.
So they got their plates out, their cups out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's all just part of your brand. Once again, what do you want to do? How do you want to show off that property?
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. And my guest is Corey Dostal. Corey has Missoula Real Estate Photography. Also want to thank some of Diane's marketing partners that help bring you the show every weekend here on Newstalk KGVO. Rob Fleming with Man Mortgage, Miles Link at Opportunity Bank of Montana, and Carol Blodgett from MakeItMissoula.com. Back to Corey Dostal. You are not in the business of trying to fool anybody or disguise things, but I assume you've seen many properties where you had to work around a number of negative features, shall we say. How do you address that? How do you handle that?
Yeah, it just depends on what it is. There's been times where there's a broken down car in the driveway and they can't move it. So I'm able to have my realtor, my editor, take care of a lot of those things, depending on how big that item is and how much work goes into it. Of course, there's a cost to it because it's time.
Yeah.
If it's something little, I'm able to Photoshop out real quick on some of those things. Other things that are unphotoshoppable, I should say, I guess.
Did you just make up a new word? A new industry term?
Yeah, check the dictionary next year. We got, I'll shoot different angles. I'll zoom in maybe a little bit just to pull something out. With MLS shots, you can't have like advertising and things like that in it. There was a house I was recently shooting that had a business next door, and they had their truck out front and it had the name of the business on it. So I just kind of angled the camera a little bit to the right, zoomed in a little bit, and it cropped that truck right out of the shot.
Not to interrupt you here, but you cannot by law or you just cannot because it doesn't look good.
Yeah, they got their rules
and
things like that on MLS where they can't have, there's a lot of little things. So like a realtor sign in the photo, things like that.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know too much about that, like what the legalities really are. I just know a lot of places can't have a lot of MLSs through the United States can't have that advertising or a business or something like that. So I always angle and crop out. There's been a couple times where there's a truck in someone's yard that has that on it. So I just move to the left or move to the right, zoom in a little bit, and just crop that thing out.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I didn't mean to derail you there, but that was that kind of caught my ear. Also, Matterport. I think I got that right. Matterport 3D tours. That's one of the services you offer. Sounds very, very high tech. Very interesting. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, the Matterport. It's a lot of fun because you're running around constantly. Because it's a 360 camera. So I have a camera that has a lens on the front, a lens on the back. It takes a photo, it stitches it automatically together, and I go through the whole house. And I take probably, depending on the size of the home, anywhere from 70 to 90, sometimes more if it's a bigger home, of shots. And then within 24 hours, Matterport has that back to me, and it's a Google Street View through the home as a way to kind of explain it. So you can walk through the home virtually. There's even some features where with new virtual reality and stuff like that, people can put on a headset and walk through it, depending on how you want to show it off. So you kind of go through there, but because of that 360 camera, you're always walking. I put in my miles with that one because I'm hiding behind a wall or hiding behind a couch so I don't get caught in the shot.
Is it large, small? Is it on a rolling stand, or I'm trying to visualize what it looks like?
Yeah, so it just depends. There's different models of cameras that you can use. There's a couple different styles. The one that I have, I enjoy because it's quick. It doesn't take me hours to do. There's a bigger camera that slowly circles around 360, taking shots as it goes. We'll say each photo, because it takes a couple photos when it circles around, but that will take, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Whereas like my camera, it's the size of a cell phone almost, maybe a little bit smaller than a cell phone. And it just sits on a monopod / tripod. Okay. And I just move it through the house every 6 feet away from the last shot and just go in a grid format through the whole home, taking those shots, and it goes real quick. That way it takes me maybe 30 seconds a shot, if that. Yeah.
And you've got to get out of the way. Do you have some kind of a little tablet, or how are you looking at what your Matterport is shooting?
Yeah, so I do have an iPad.
Yeah.
My iPad works with my DSLR camera for the photos itself and the Matterport. So I can trigger that thing through the iPad. The 360 tours, I will stake it in one spot, go hide in the kitchen or around the next corner.
Yeah.
Open floor plans become a big pain because you walk a long distance. But you go hide, and then I just hit the trigger, it chimes, and then on the second chime, I know it's done and it's starting to load to the iPad. At that point, I can walk back to it, move it to the next spot, and hide. And by the time I hide, it's already uploaded, and I can hit it again. So I can just move really quickly that way.
Man, I think we probably, I'm not going to ask you dollars, but I think we probably just gave a pretty good example of this. Obviously, you've had to invest in equipment, a lot of equipment to keep up with the ever-changing technology. Not cheap, no doubt about that. What are some of the other really, cool gadgets and gizmos and doodads that you love working with along with your Matterport 3D?
Yeah, so, I got different lenses to do different things when I do video, photography. The one thing that I think I love the most is the drone, especially when I get out to some farther away spots. There's a lot that goes into drone flight, certifications, things like that, to legally fly. And the things I get to see with that drone is pretty sweet. There's been times where I was shooting a property up Rock Creek, and I was like 35 miles back in Rock Creek. Ooh. And I flew the drone away over to the creek, dropped it down a couple feet above the creek, took off, and it was going to be my opening shot for the video that I was creating. Kind of lifted up and started to turn. And as I started to turn, saw a shadow on the side of the cliff. And all of a sudden, a bald eagle flew right in front of the drone and turned to the left. And then my, property was there. But in my mind at that point, like eagles, hawks, they'll take out a drone. So I was just like, get the heck out. And when I got back home, I rewound that footage, and I caught that bald eagle take off from the limb, flying the whole way, and then cut in front of my drone and turn. So I get to see some pretty cool wildlife and things like that with it.
Is there such a thing as drone insurance, or have you avoided any bad drone accidents?
There's
how you doing so far with the drone?
So far, drone is still the same drone.
Yeah,
I have not destroyed my drone yet. Nothing has taken it away from me through the air.
Yeah.
But there is drone insurance and things like that. So that way, if it falls, you can get replacements, or if it falls on something else, you got your coverage there. So if you damage something or whatever, it is a blast.
It must be a big relief to your clients knowing that showing a property in pictures and video is in the hands of an experienced professional like yourself. These are not skills a lot of people have. Plus the time you can save them. That has to be substantial.
Yeah, and it's ever since I've started, kind of like I said about branding, it's also, you can definitely walk in. Camera phones are really great, but if you don't know what you're doing, it's not going to take the best shot for you. I tell a lot of people that, my job is to take care of the photography, the video, creating the marketing material for you. Let's have you go focus on what you're good at, selling the home, getting everything lined up, whatever it is, the contracts, the paperwork, whatever you have to do. You take care of that. I'll take care of the media, and I'll get that media to you, like I said, within 24 hours or 48 hours if it's video. Just let me take that off the plate for you.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest is Corey Dostal, Missoula Real Estate Photography. I ask every guest, Corey, about success stories. Any session or sessions you've done recently that you've been especially proud of?
There's the thing that I'm proud of is just the growth of the business. A lot of things have changed, and it's changed very fast. So I'm having to adapt to things pretty quickly. Moving into the higher end homes, I absolutely love that. I come from a construction family, so I kind of fall into the other side of construction now, where I'm actually taking the finalized picture of it. My dad always stopped me from building homes because he didn't want me to go into that. So he ended that pretty quick. But being able to step in and see these homes through the eyes of a contractor and see that kind of stuff and move into the $1 million homes and things like that, I absolutely love.
And $1 million homes are becoming more and more commonplace in this market, aren't they?
Yeah, the traditional wordage of $1 million home is not $1 million home anymore. I don't know if it's, if the old $1 million home is considered a $2 million home or what they want to label it as now. But some of the $1 million homes you would think of when you hear that word is not what you're seeing anymore.
Yeah. Well, you'll start going into, a bunch of $2 million homes, and as the business grows, $3 million and so on. Right?
Yeah, we'll see down the road what the most expensive home I've shot is.
I should have asked you this about 20 minutes ago when you brought up some of the other things you're venturing into, working with architects and architectural design. Is that completely different from the Missoula Real Estate Photography? And that must be quite interesting too. And I've been led to believe that architects, they can be pretty, particular and precise about things.
Yeah, so it's a totally different ball game. Like I was saying before, real estate's all about showing off like the size of the room, maybe a little bit mood. Architecture is going to be really about lines, showing it's totally different angles with it, but it's where you get a lot more creative and being able to take that time because, an architecture session, I'll block out a whole day so we can shoot however long we need to shoot for. So I get to really hone in and pay attention to little particulars and grab the best shots I can.
Corey Dostal, Missoula Real Estate Photography, been my guest this week on Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck on Newstalk KGVO. If you're thinking about selling a home, you want your realtor to hire this guy. If people want to get a hold of you, Corey, how do they do that?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. You can give me a call or shoot a text message to me at 406-241-0458. Once again, that's 406-241-0458. You can also go to bookmissoula.com. That's BOOKMISSOULA, Missoula.com.
Great having you on the show. Thanks for coming in.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@windermere.com, or for a complete directory of Diane's listings, visit move2missoula.com. That's move, the number 2, Missoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.